whether, you're an employee or you're an entrepreneur or you're just anybody just in life, fear and doubt, I think, are the greatest bottlenecks in business and in life. And, I had earned this well-earned crown of the dealmaker at the time. And I believe that these men were just like, well, we better have her on our side than compete against her.
Welcome to the Paid to Create podcast, where we dig into the secret strategies of successful creators making a lucrative living. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I just have to tell you about Kartra, the marketing platform that has seriously transformed my business. You know how running a business can be insanely time consuming, right? Well, Kartra has been a game changer for me. It's honestly like having an entire marketing team in my pocket. And what I love most is that it automates all the tedious daily tasks for me, from marketing to sales to even customer experience. I can't believe how much time and energy I've saved since I started using it. And get this. With Kartra, I can create websites, funnels, courses, membership sites, email campaigns, calendars, surveys, you name it. It's made managing my business so much simpler and more affordable. Honestly, I can't recommend Kartra enough. If you're curious, head to paidtocreatepodcast.com/Kartra to start your trial. Trust me, you won't regret it. Welcome everyone to the Paid to Create podcast. I'm AJ Roberts. Alongside me, as always, my beautiful co-host Sarah Jenkins. And today's guest is the wonderful Kelly Fidel. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Super happy to be here.
I'm glad you make it down through the treacherous rain out there.
Yeah, it was great though. We're here.
Cool. So Kelly, we always like to start off with you sharing your journey. Everyone discovered being a creator, being an entrepreneur differently. When was the first time you were like, oh, maybe I'm an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I love that. So first of all, thank you for having me on the show. And, it's wild because I think back, I was raised by a single mom. We had very little money and I wanted a pair of tennis shoes, kind of like Jack Purcell's and would be today. And my mom had this great idea. She's like, go to your aunt's house, pick avocados, go door to door and sell these avocados and go buy your shoes. So I did that and went to door, 25 cents each or 5 for $1. And I wound up in a cul-de-sac, think centers of influence, and found all of my ideal clients. And yes, I got my shoes, right? A girl has got to have her shoes. And those 25-cent avocados and that entrepreneurship has turned into today with me closing over $1 billion in sales personally. So it's like, you look back on the journey and you're like, wow, when you start there, and all of the steps, the success and the failure that you take in between, you kind of arrive. And even with that success, you're like, man, I'm still meant for more. There's so much more that I can still do.
Yeah, overnight success.
Yes, yeah, an overnight success after 30 years.
Yeah, so obviously, like as a kid, you did it because you learned how to get a pair of shoes. Did you continue starting businesses as a kid and then that just flourished? Or did you go into the traditional workplace and realize, this isn't for me?
I became a great negotiator, actually. I will tell you one more and we'll move to the workplace. But I used to clean really dirty, poopy horse stalls in exchange for riding time. So I loved that. Love horses, still do.
Actually, give me an idea for Holly. Sell avocados and go shovel poop.
That's right.
She keeps saying, when are we getting a horse? I'm like, we're not getting a horse. Like,
go work with a horse. Yeah. And, I did the college thing, but candidly, I ejected and I jumped into corporate and really didn't have any idea what I was going to do or that skill set. And then over time, climbed that corporate ladder, working in Fortune 50 in a variety of positions, running $1 billion sales, divisions and doing turnarounds for big companies like Citicorp and landing in the C-suite. And then one of my favorites, I think that really allowed me to kind of round out what I really wanted to do as an entrepreneur is being a chief learning officer. So running global learning and development, of course, it doesn't start there, right? But, creating the content and how do you create this content and what does that look like and how much is too much or is it enough? And where's the value in that? And I think, bringing all those skill sets, especially for women, right? We start something new and we forget all of the expertise and the skill that we have and we fail to bring it forward. So women get amnesia, I always say. And it's time to really sit back and go, all right, look, if you're over like 16, you probably have done something or 18. And being a creator, I believe can truly cause a ripple effect around the world and impact people's lives, help them be better people. And make more money, change economies, and flat out have a good time.
Yeah. I mean, let's unpack that a little bit because
there's a lot.
Well, first of all, like going into corporate is one thing.
Yeah.
Climbing the corporate ladder is another thing. Sitting in the C-suite, closing huge deals and putting other people in their place is a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's even bigger when you consider like being a female. And at the time, like the last, 10 years, things have dramatically changed. Not as much as they need to, but they've dramatically changed, right? The whole idea of equality and, appropriate language and behavior, like this is all new, right? But you did all of this in a time where it wasn't. And, the locker room speak was normal. And so you've had to go through all of that. So share that journey in the corporate, like how did you navigate that? You're a powerful leader now, CEO, you empower other people, especially women, but obviously going through that, like there wasn't a podcast, there wasn't YouTube and videos to look, and there wasn't other female entrepreneurs to connect with. So how did that journey look and what gave you the confidence to push to higher places?
Yeah, great question. So, I think originally, I always felt like, and maybe this was the way I grew up, but I always thought if I had a phone and I could talk, my moneymaker, I could always make money. Because to me, success meant money at the time. And so, working in corporate and just being myself, I was truly fearless because I felt like I didn't have anything to lose, right? And over time, I did not construct this, but I had a reputation of, a lot of the men, in fact, sitting, having a seat at the table. And a man would say, hey, honey, would you go get my coffee? No. And I said, I'll tell you what, when you go get your coffee, bring me one back. And it would just pop out of my mouth, right? Or, being in the boardroom and negotiating with the most powerful men in the world for the win. And I won most of the time, earned that respect. I think for whether, you're an employee or you're an entrepreneur or you're just anybody just in life, fear and doubt, I think are the greatest bottlenecks in business and in life. And, I had earned this well-earned crown of the dealmaker at the time. And I believe that these men were just like, well, we better have her on our side than compete against her. And, I think I always just went back to, well, I'll just throw avocados in a wagon. The metaphor meant something always different. And so, working in the financial markets was great. It was a great learning experience. And I loved it. And it wasn't always easy. And you do learn how to compromise and what works and what doesn't. But at the end of the day, I had to put my head on my pillow at night and say, did I do the best job I could possibly do? Am I proud of what I did today? And did I make an impact? Not necessarily following, the corporate speak. And I can say 99% of the time, I still love corporate. I still keep in touch with some of my bosses who are like in their 80s. And I dig that. But, I wanted to have babies and I punched out of corporate. And here's another big one to unpack. And I went on to create 10, 7, and 8-figure businesses. So, I was able to bring those traditional corporate business strategies, the things that would serve myself and people that I work with most, and then strip away and simplify everything that people don't need and add powerful online smart marketing and leverage selling, create fast results.
Yep.
It's really simple, but when you don't know, you just don't know.
Is that the sort of thing that you teach in your courses?
Yes. So my favorite thing, in fact, it's fascinating because one of my first courses actually stemmed from corporate. I would be in corporate and I would hear these women, but also men, and they didn't have a voice. They were afraid to speak up. And I thought, I'm going to create a business, no glass ceiling. But, there wasn't any Tony Robbins there wasn't any of that, especially from a woman. And, but I did it anyway. And really started to say, all right, where are people struggling? And then, yes, that's how No Glass Ceiling was born and how Powerhouse CEO was born. And so, yes, in courses, of course, people hear mindset and no one wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I can't wait. Give me some mindset. But 60,000 thoughts go through your head every single day. If you do not harness those barking dogs, you're doomed. And so, yes, all about strategy, sales, systems, scaling, and my favorite, harness the brain, man.
There's a lot. So like when you look at entrepreneurs, a lot of the times it's like, and corporate especially, there's almost like a negative thought process for corporate, right?
Right.
And what I mean by that is like people will say like I ejected or I escaped the rat race, like, and so it's interesting when you say you took stuff from corporate and applied it over here to solopreneurs, startuppreneurs, mompreneurs, people like that, and like they had huge success because a lot of people are like, well, wait a minute, like what is it? So what from corporate? There's obviously negatives, but what from corporate do you consider essential and what have you taken over into your programs that has helped your clients so much?
Yeah, that's a good one because over time, it becomes like cream and coffee. It all kind of blends together. But I would say, some of the big rocks that really relate to creators and entrepreneurs today is to really identify how is this going to help the end user, which transmits into what is the value and the transformation that this is going to provide. Like if it's a big course or a program or, a mastermind or something like that, that promise is going to be different than, a digital course perhaps, but still, what are we going to do to take them from A to B or A to Z? So I think really identifying the value in how this is going to impact, because this happens to all of us, right? We have this knowledge, this skill, this expertise, and to us, it becomes like no big deal thing. And it becomes hard to unpack that and really distill it down into what is the most essential. And then people get confused, right? And then they start to doubt themselves. And then there's this fear. And then there's this bottleneck. And it becomes this death spiral of, creators and of entrepreneurs who I've seen some really talented people. And they just, spin out into, devil's doomsday kind of deal for no reason. And so I think just really identifying and keeping things extremely simple and extremely tight. What's the value in this and how is it going to impact that end user or that end client? So I think that's one of the things that came forward. The other thing that I really have brought forward, which really is in the world of creators, is to not over bloat a program, not to pack stuff in there thinking that it's value. And I'll always remember I had these like great ideas sitting at the table and they'd be like, we don't have the budget for that. It's like, I know you do, just pull it from another line item. But really, when you think about it, it's like, is it that necessary? And most of us have the attention span of a flea in today's world. So let's get to the good stuff first. And let's create change and let's help people make money, change their lives, put great content out there and and make the impact. Because at the end of the day, like we're not taking the money with us.
No, we're not. So when you talk about when you have amnesia, talking about your experiences and your value, some women they just forget what they've done. They forget the experiences they do have that they can fall back on. So when you're going through that, if you're trying to decide how to do a product, right? And you're not sure what to do, how would you help someone get over that roadblock in their own head? Like, where would they start?
Yep. So the first thing that I always ask is, what is the thing that you love to do? Because there's a lot of things you can do, and a lot of people will default to what they can do instead of what they absolutely love to do out of fear. And so they'll say, well, I'll just do this because I know I can, and I don't have to like go all in 100%, put my heart on the line, because if it fails, so what? And so what is it that you absolutely love to do? And then how do we monetize that in the most fast, efficient, and profitable way for you? Because we're not a nonprofit, right? And then of course, obviously the impact has to be in there. And, I'm sure men do this as well, but I just see it quite often in women where they're like, I'm starting this new thing. I have to get new knowledge. I have to get 1 million certifications. I have to get, new testimonials. I have to do, and it's like, God, you'll to-do yourself out of business.
Yeah. It's interesting with that because it's very easy to like start to create something and you say, okay, like, you create a one page of like, this is what they need and this is what they have to do and this is what they want. And then you start go, okay, well, but like, what about this and what about that? And you start to think like, okay, I got to solve all of these other problems, forgetting. And this is where I've seen a difference in people who are successful with running their own businesses or selling courses or whatever, and people who are not. It's the sales skill, right? Because if you don't know how to sell, oftentimes you will bloat the courses because you think more is better. You don't understand that what they're buying is the outcome. And the more specific that is, the more they'll pay for it, right? And it goes back to, you look at doctors, right?
Yeah.
You don't go to your general physician to if you have a hand problem and need a surgery. You're going to find a specialist. You don't pay a lot more, but you know that that's all they work on. That's all they do is fix this one problem, like carpal tunnel, something like that.
Right.
So what's interesting is I think that, when people hear like, oh, successful in corporate, build all these businesses, like it's easy for them to go, oh, well, you just, like you have something. There's something magical there, right? But really, when I look at it, it's like your negotiation skills, right? You mentioned being the deal maker, understanding what people want and how they buy it and sitting in those negotiations and going, like, okay, if I get this, like we eat. If I don't get this, like, oh man, like where's the next commission coming from?
Right.
And then moving into entrepreneurship, it's the same mentality, but now you're selling yourself, which people have a problem with, right? That's a lot of people have that, goes back to the mindset. But what do you think from a sales perspective or negotiation or whatever, like what do you think it is that allows people to, because the bloat comes from overthinking and being like, more is better. If I add more stuff, people will just be like, oh, this is so amazing. So sitting across the table, having built 10 businesses, sold so many things you have, what is the real secret to sales? Because I know you have some strict tricks.
Look, I'm a sales dog at heart. I love sales, selling, and deal making. And I know everyone doesn't feel that way. So what happens is these other weird words come up like salesy or sleazy, which candidly drives me crazy. It's like, look, if you just sell in integrity, you never have to worry another day in your life. And just stop using all this other, icky speak, because it does not, it's like the dog that meows. It's like, it's not cute. Just sell in integrity. And, sales is oxygen for business, period. So if somebody doesn't know how to sell, and I'm talking basic selling skills up to advanced selling and everything in between, it doesn't matter how great they could be at something. It's not going to get out into the market. I always go back to mindset. Like you cannot outmarket a bad mindset, and you cannot, just outmarket the lack of sales and selling. It's honorable. I always go back to, like the cowboys and Indians, and they exchange their blankets and corn and things like that. I mean, that's what we are doing in the modern world. I am going to help you do this epic, awesome thing. And in exchange, there has to be an exchange, right? Yeah. It's not like take my 10 cows in a blanket and I don't need anything in return. Very weird analogy. But
I was gonna say, I follow, but
yeah. So there has to be that value exchange. But people are either afraid of selling because they have had experiences in their past, whether they have been sold to and didn't like the experience or they don't have the skill set. And they bring this forward into today with their own negativity, their own perceived notion of, if I do this, that will happen. And that's a fatal mistake.
Specific question on that.
Yeah.
So if they don't know selling,
yes,
how would you think they would become knowledgeable about sales? I think I know where you're going to go, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Yeah. Well, they don't have to start from ground zero and go sell avocados. That's for sure.
Mostly for sure.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there are some amazing podcasts. Like this is one of them where you can really, if you really want to discover how to get paid to create, because we are creating every single day, whether we know it or not, then definitely start here. But there are great podcasts. There are great courses and programs, free resources. But at the end of the day, it's like step up, engage, put yourself aside. It's not about you, right? Really serve that end client and cut the drama.
Yeah.
Like just flipping how bad you want to sit in a rocker when you're 83 years old going, if I woulda, shoulda, coulda.
No.
Look, I'm
I don't
super
want that.
passionate, so I'm going to go hard, right? Or learn the skill. If you don't know how to drive, does that mean you never get in a car? Absolutely not.
I think that's critical because to me, selling is one of the first skills. Like when people say, how do I scale to 7 figures?
Yeah.
It's like, have a good product and learn how to sell. You don't need to worry about anything else. Like, well, what about SOPs and systems? Like until you hit 7 figures, you don't really have a real business, right? Like, so, and I don't say that to be negative to those who are, making 6 figures or whatever, but the reality is that like, most problems don't arise until you hit certain benchmarks.
Absolutely.
And there's a good chance that like not having an SOP is not what's stopping you getting to 7 figures. It's you're not getting in front of enough people and you don't have a strong enough sales message. The rest is usually comes after, right? And it's the amount of businesses, 8-figure, 9 businesses I talk to that like don't have basic things and analytics and data. And we didn't for a long time. And so I think it comes back to the fact that first of all, they got to learn the skill.
Right.
The second thing that's really valuable, you mentioned it, but I want to highlight it, is I don't think they understand the value that is actually being like shared with the other person. And that might come from 2 things. Number one, what they're trying to sell is conceptual. They've never actually done it, so they don't know the value.
True.
They say, oh, it will help you make 1,000 a day or something like that, but they're not making 1,000 a day. So it's a learned thing, not an actual experience thing.
Right.
And then the other side of it is they just don't understand the impact because they haven't talked to their clients enough about the results to really understand what that ripple effect looked like. Because it's easy. And money is an easy one. If you sell something that makes people money, they can turn around and say, oh my gosh, I made 30,000 in the first 15 days of working with Kelly. But if it was fitness, oh, I lost 5 pounds. Okay, that 5 pounds, that sounds okay.
Yeah.
But like, what if that person had been struggling to lose weight for years?
I was going to say, I want to do a dance and you better do it for me too. If I just lost 5 pounds as AJ.
Absolutely.
Come on, man.
It's extending your lifespan.
Yeah, the money, the 5 pounds, whatever it is, like that is literally, it is all it is that is the byproduct of the real impact. And I think that in selling, one of the things they always teach you is you got to go down, right? If someone gives you a surface level answer, we've got to explore that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to your results that you're giving them, most creators don't explore the depth of their results.
Right. I think they don't explore the depth of their results. And I don't believe that they have a selling system. I love high-end sales. Reeling back the clock for a hot second in corporate, my boss would say, go close that $30 million deal. And I go, okay, didn't know any different. Walk in, hi, do the deal, sign the document. You got the contract. Yes, sign, boom, out. Because you don't know any better, right? It's like you just get your marching orders and you go. Well, today, some people may be closing those. I like to say, if you want to get to 6 figures, like pick a horse and ride it and, add an extra 100 grand, like just definitely get out there and make some money. Then you can go to 3K day, which is $1 million. Right. But maybe everybody doesn't want to make $1 million, or, you can get to 3 million without having 20 employees, depending on your market, all of those things. I personally, look, I could sell ice cubes to Eskimos, as they say, but I prefer leverage selling, which is something that I have utilized and developed over the last 12, 14 years about selling high-end clients without phone consults. I'm not anti-phone consults. There's a time and place. But look, you absolutely can sell $20, $30, $50, $100,000 programs and packages without phone consults. We do it all the time, every week. So that having a leverage selling system starts with loving your offer. If you are not in love, sold out, your name's on it, and you would eat your own cooking, you're done. And then being able to use and leverage technology. Of course, we are diehard Kartra fans. Everything rides on Kartra. Yeah, everything. And everything is integrated. Like we don't touch anything. and they move through that process. Their contracts are signed automatically, like just from A literally to Z, thanks to Kartra. So thank you for that.
So you're saying you wouldn't do a phone consult all the time. What do you do instead? So you didn't say what you did instead of the phone consult.
What do we do in lieu?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give you the very high level Cliff Notes version, and then offline I'll tell you the secret.
Totally. Well, I come to these interviews hoping to learn. So I take my notes, and when you say something, I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh, I always learn from you. So
lies.
We'll have to do a
secret podcast without AJ.
Yes. In fact, how about just being a guest on the Powerhouse CEO?
Thank you. Yes, I would love that.
That'd be cool. No boys allowed. All right.
Stop deal making. Let's go.
All right.
See, it just happens. It just happens.
So instead of a phone consult,
yeah, instead of a phone consult,
how do you utilize that skill?
Yeah. So, there's a couple of ways. I mean, certainly they can move through a funnel process, right? So the actual, I'll tell you how we do it, but there's a lot of variations to this is, we shoot 4 videos a month and rip the audio that becomes podcast separate from interviews. And, we syndicate some of that content. Now, we used to go crazy and syndicate it to 300 channels. We just don't do that anymore. It's not necessary. And those feed into, I would say, a VSL. So an 18-minute video, sometimes with B-roll, if we want to get fancy schmancy. And if not, I'll just go direct to camera.
I'm very fancy.
Very fancy. And at the end, there's a call to action that if this makes sense to them and that they want to learn more, please apply below for our, private advanced training, where we will share with you exactly this, that, investment, etc. They apply. Now, some people like to, and we do teach this, some people like to automatically approve applications. We are really advanced. So we use the predictive buying behavior, or BAM.
Very cool.
And based on the tags and how they've answered it, it will automatically send them to a high-end program or a automatic downsell.
That's smart.
And because look, if they've only made 50 grand a year, or even if they're just starting out, a high-end mastermind is not necessarily going to be the best path. They'll get buried.
Yeah, they're not ready for it.
They're not. Body, mind, and soul. Like, they'll just collapse. And we don't want to do that to people. So we're able to serve them and speak to them exactly where they're at. And then through emails, doors are open. Here is the sales page. We're super transparent. Here is the investment. Here's how it works. We always drive to the first retreat. So, we do that. And people enroll. If they have questions, I do one group Q&A. One. They can ask their questions. If it's like $100,000 program that we have, we do if someone requests it, which is actually less than 10% of our people, our applicants, and the people that are highly interested, we do a 15-minute decision call. And that's what it's called, a 15-minute decision call. And it's very specific. It's not coaching. I'm not here to look at any of your programs. We're either in or we're out. It's a decision call. Not a, foo-foo breakthrough session. Nothing is wrong with those, but it's specific.
Can you say that you do that because you believe in the value of your product? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And because we create enough content, valuable content. I love giving away the best stuff because people might execute and get results. I've had people, they send support tickets. They've been in our world for 5-10 years and they'll share their results. I think that's great. But everybody has a season that they're in. And at the right time, if it makes sense for them, they'll work with us. And if not, doesn't matter. It's still a part of No Glass Ceiling's mission to cause a ripple effect around the world. And so again, the decision call is basically a strategy session, but it's like 15 minutes. And it's highly constructed.
I think that's really important. And just for those that don't know, VSL is video sales letter. It's essentially a presentation of video. So when Kelly mentions leverage selling, what she's really talking about is all of the things that you usually would do one-to-one. How do you then create that so it can be one-to-many, right? So
absolutely.
A VSL or a webinar is it's a short presentation that is essentially pre-sells the person on like knowing everything they need to know to move to the next step in the conversation. And I think that piece is like so critical. It's interesting. When I went in for a vasectomy, like it felt like no.
We're not going to even
hold with me on the story.
All right, no story, actually.
It'll make sense. But I went in just like you normally would to a doctor's office, and so you sit and you wait, and then I was taken back into the doctor's the room or whatever, and the nurse came in, and the nurse is asking me some questions, and they say, okay, cool. Well, watch this video, and then I'll be back in 40 minutes, and you can ask questions. And it was literally the doctor presenting the whole spiel on,
awesome.
the different options and how it would go. And what I realized, and this doctor is very successful, has multiple offices, and essentially just shows up and does the surgeries. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, he doesn't really meet with the patients.
Yep.
But he's created the same presentation that every single person has to hear. And it was a little strange because, you're at the doctor's office. So it's like, but for me, it was fascinating because I love this kind of stuff. Right. I'm like, he's literally giving me a webinar right now.
This is like leveraged.
And I'm here, so I can't escape this. I can't click exit and just like not watch it.
I wonder how many walk out of the room and change your mind. So he's like, this will make you stick.
Maybe.
He's discovered it.
But I'm like,
100% conversion.
Yep.
The key is the environment, right? Like I'm in a container,
right?
And I watched the presentation, and at the end I was presented with my options, right? And it was the normal option.
Go in or leave.
There was like a VIP option, right? And it's like, well,
please tell me you picked the VIP
I'm having
option.
Surgery here, like I'm not going like cheap is not the way to go, right? Like, but my point, and I imagine like for plastic surgeons and people like that who are often repeating themselves for a standard procedure, right? If it's custom, it's different because you kind of have to have that interaction because you're creating a customized plan. But when you're selling, and most people are selling the same thing over and over and again.
He's selling the same thing over and over again.
There's really not a need to constantly show up and repeat yourself.
No. It's a pitfall.
Yes.
It's a pitfall where people feel like first of all, another great fatal mistake is that people feel like they have to do too many things live or hire too soon or hire too many people, feeling like they have to be a corporate, and the inability to duplicate yourself, right? The power of technology and being able to leverage yourself, your time, your knowledge, whether that's in marketing, enrolling many people, whatever that is it's so key.
Yeah. And the cool thing with video is like if you're not confident on camera, like, and this is where like a lot of creators are very good at creating courses, are very good at creating content, educating.
Right.
Sales wise, they're not so good. So like when it comes to standing in front of people and pitching, like they get nervous. But with video, like it's just you and the camera. And if you're really uncomfortable with you and the camera, you can just use slides. So it actually, you can create a more powerful presentation where you can really showcase yourself and come through because you do believe in what you're selling. And now you've just created this one-time video. And even to the point, what you're saying about duplicating yourself, we're just playing around with some AI right now that essentially you train and it's your voice. So now all you actually have to do is be able to write the script, which you could outsource and then get that back, edit it, and boom, now you have your video and all you did was read the script to approve it. So we're getting to the point where not being leveraged is really not an option, or it shouldn't be an option. And for the entrepreneur who doesn't want to build a big company, wants to stay lean and is more lifestyle orientated, there's no reason to hire people when you can just do that. So is that kind of your entire business concept around leverage, like your courses, everything you do, it's like one-time setup? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's all about making money, creating impact with total freedom. And those are our non-negotiables, right? So who we are and how we operate is non-negotiable. We just never waver. And that filters into everything that we do. So I believe that whether you're at 6 figures, 7, 8, or 9, one of the greatest problems is that I've seen people give up their companies to, investors or a president. I've seen entrepreneurs, fold because they are unable to understand leverage. And it's not always just technology, right? And so, yes, leverage selling is first and foremost. How do we gather these clients? How do we leverage, centers of influence? It could be a credit union and they have a list of 100,000 people and someone's interested in going out and doing that. But we focus really on online marketing. So, that's really key, is to be able to, yes, leverage. Now, I will say one of the pitfalls is that scale is such a buzzword. And I will go out on the limb and say, stop. Everybody doesn't need to scale. Look at, in its most simple format, how do I grow without increasing expenses? And all of the K-drama around that, like, we just don't need it, right? Now, there are times when businesses do want to scale, and I think that's great. But if people fail to scale properly, it can blow up in a really bad way. And there is honor in building a six-figure business. There's honor in building a $3 million business with one or two people to help you. There's honor in building a $200 million business. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you guys will do far more than that. But building a $1 billion brand is far easier today because of the online world. Everything that we start with, all of our courses, programs, anything that we create, any content, it always starts with my model that I use, which is ITIR. It's very simple. Anybody can use it. It's intentional thought, intentional result. So, and I always back into it. What is the number one result that I want people to get from this? And what is the thought that I want to have around that when I deliver it? And when you really take it simple and say, all right, I want this, and this is how I'm going to think, feel, and be to deliver this content. And what is the one powerful, mechanism, tool, strategy, or sales angle that I can give somebody so that they can go out, change their life? I mean, we focus on, making money. But look, if somebody came to me and said, I'm going to help you lose 20 pounds, I'm like, oh, that's going to add a few years to my life. Like, I'd do that. I'd do it for 5.
I mean, man, this goal seem extreme. 5, like I said, I'm excited and doing a dance. So I'll bring you back what you said in the boardroom. It's usually you and a bunch of men, which is very typical back then, especially if you're in a C-suite.
Yep.
It's hard to do, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Certainly need more of that. I will ask you a weird question, just, we'll pretend Age is not here. How do you avoid being called the deal maker, but also being called the B word?
Am I allowed to say it?
I don't know. Are we?
Badass. Say what you
okay. Well, okay. So, how do you be the deal maker and be that cool kid in the boardroom that isn't called bitch behind your back every time you turn around, or do you even care?
Yeah. So I think it's a great question, because not only in corporate, but even in today and in the marketing world, even, it's male dominated. So
far.
Yeah. So back in the day, I was called the boardroom bitch.
See, I kind of like that.
Hey, it wasn't sexy back then, but I'll own it today, right? And I had several of my bosses at the time that said, she will eat you for lunch. You really better be careful who you're speaking to.
See, I like that part. That makes me happy. I like when somebody's a little bit fearful because you're going to give it to them straight. I admire that about you a lot.
Thank you. Yeah. I think there is too much soft and fluff and rainbows in the world. I dig it. But look, if we're all about helping people and changing lives, like, let's get down to it. And in the corporate days, it was like, look, we're going to, make deals and make money. And, I guess, at the end of the day, I think growing up with a single mom, we were broke as a joke, but there was so much love in the house. I didn't know we were poor. And I brought that forward to me. So it's like, time out. Like, if you're telling me I'm a boardroom bitch with love, I'm down. But if it's anything else, it doesn't matter, because I love myself enough to not take that on. So it was water off a duck's back.
Oh, that's a really healthy
but it didn't
way your mom
last
raised
long
you.
because the respect was there.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're fearless. I've known you for a long time, and it's a word that I think is part of your DNA.
Yeah.
Right. And when you look back at your childhood and the way your mother was, it comes from your upbringing. But you work with a lot of women.
Yeah.
And I've seen you operate. I've spoken at your events, and And a lot of women don't have that. They don't have the self-confidence. They put everybody before themselves. And you're a master at getting that switch to turn and giving them that. So can you kind of share some of that? Because I think that like a lot of women listening would be like, yeah, but then they're like, I have no idea how to do
How?
that.
How to
Yeah,
get
like
there.
it, like the even that concept of having that confidence is scary to them.
Right. Yes, I will try and take like 2 hours and put it into like 30 seconds.
We're ready.
Yeah, that's right. Get ready. There is more than just flipping a switch to becoming, a powerhouse CEO from an entrepreneur or a woman who wants to stand on her own foundation of success. And it's interesting that you said fearless because that's our brand pulse, right, of the business. And for women, there is this weird thing that I see happen periodically. And it's where, this is going to sound odd, but for some women, especially if they're over, I'm going to say like 35 or 40, they kind of have this one foot in the world of like the 60s, the old pregnant and barefoot in the kitchen. And let me also put the other foot and, raise a family and also be the businesswoman. And I think a lot has changed since then. But I do think that there's always this ether in the back of certain women's minds where, how do I really, stand up? How do I rise up? And I always say, you don't have to. Just surround yourself with women that will we're all on different journeys, but we can take the journey together. And there is power in that. And yes, not all women are cool, not all men are cool, but at the end of the day, when you align yourself with people that will help you see the breakthrough, in football and in the NFL, there's the left tackle, the blind side. I mean, the whole purpose of that is, to protect the quarterback. And I think that, and so, that person is there, that position is there. Women need someone to help them break through their blind spots. They need someone to protect their blind side until they can learn how. So some of it starts with Original Fear. Great book, Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist monk, fear. Certainly read about that. But also it can be a learned skill to become more confident. To have people who will believe in you even when you don't. Because if I were to give someone directions and it's rainy and foggy and they've never been from, California to New York, but if you trust me and I give you the directions, do you think you could get there? Yes. And so it really comes through, the coaching, the mentoring, the friendships, the connections, the networking, and really staying tightly aligned with a group of people who are your people that you trust. And you build that. But, I would say, to wrap this up, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If someone is asking me, hey, this is great, how? I am going to give it to you straight, because you have literally come into my life and my world, which I'm grateful for, and you're trusting me with your life. That's a tremendous responsibility. Mm. And so, let's get you across the finish line no matter what. Are you down? Hold my hand. I'll have the machete in one hand, your hand in the other. Let's carve our way through this thing and go. And I love the breakthroughs. That's the personal reward. Money's great. Look, I could, your finger in a cocktail glass, stir and make money. That's great. But it's the personal breakthroughs and those results that I just get amped.
Well, I think that's far more fulfilling than money. If anything, when my husband passed away, we learned that money doesn't mean anything. It's about the memories and what you want to do and the value that you bring to others. Otherwise, what's the point?
Exactly.
Where would you go and tell women that don't have necessarily a great inner circle where to go find one?
Yep. So
maybe a mastermind.
Yeah. I mean, coming into our world, we have our little circles are all sorts of things through podcasts or paid programs. It doesn't really matter. But I would say, in general, like, don't go where the masses go. Go where your gut tells you to go. Go where you feel right. If you've ever walked into a room and it just feels weird, or you've walked into a church or a hotel or whatever, and it just doesn't feel right, listen to that. Women are great at that, right? But when you walk into that spot and you go, this is it, even if it's scary, keep walking. You've just walked through the door. Don't turn around. And find those people. Find those tribes.
Never mind, I was going to say something, but I forgot.
So, like, how, when you were in corporate, did you have mentors? Like, how did you find a mentor? Because, like, that's the big thing. A lot of people say, like, they hear it, and you mentioned it, like, you can books and podcasts, but how do you find your tribe? Because that's a very difficult thing for some people, right? Because they're at home, maybe they're still at home mom, they're trying to start this business, like, you know, they're scrolling on Instagram and TikTok all the time, like, you know, they'll buy a course, but there's no support there, you know, and so they don't do anything, or they try, but they don't have any feedback. So, like, because like it is such an important thing, but so many people struggle to figure that out.
Right. I think that's why it's so important to be true to who you are, because when people are trying to find the tribe, it is about, you know, language is everything. And it's not just copy. I'm talking about language, like who someone is and how they operate. It's, you know, people are looking, they're watching even when we think they're not. In corporate, I would ask the big bosses. I remember one of my very first questions, good Lord, I think I was 21 maybe. And I said, what are the conversations that happen in the bathroom? And they look and they go, is that a real question? I said, well, I could ask you what happens on the golf course, but that's easy. I could get on the golf course if I asked, but what happens in the bathroom? And conversations used to, I don't know, because I'm not in corporate anymore, but a lot of those conversations happen behind the scenes. And so you just ask. You have to raise your hand and be an advocate for yourself. And then, you know, listen to people. And without judgment, which is not always easy, right? And not always like, what am I going to get out of it? It's like, is there one little thing that this would help me? And so finding the tribe is, you know, it is, how would I say it? It's like the blessing and the curse at the same time, right? And we go through seasons, like who you think your tribe is today and where you're at. As you grow and change, you want to have a different tribe to ascend to. I mean, we are seekers, right? We're humans and we're seekers by nature. And so we're always looking to learn from others and stay connected. I always say high tech, high touch, human touch. And so, you know, who are those people? And don't get too attached. Look, your ride and die that you think are today, they might not be the people that you thought tomorrow.
I think it's important, and reminds me of, I think it's Alaska Bush or whatever TV show, and they moved from Alaska. I don't know where they ended up moving to, Montana or something, but Colorado is where they ended up. But they literally were looking for a new place, and they just were going to different places, and they were like, we'll know when we get there. Yeah. Right. And there's an energy that, like, when you walk in a certain room, like, you know if it's your people or not. And sometimes it's okay to be in rooms that they're not your people, right? Sometimes a lot of examples are like, well, I don't want to be around this kind of activity, or this isn't what I resonate with, right? Like, you know, a lot of groups are like, you know, party animals, and they go out, and that's part of the community is staying out till 4 a.m. and then getting up at 8. And I don't know how people do it, but
that used to be our people.
And it could, at one phase, that could be your people.
Now we have kids, so that sounds exhausting.
It's like 2 a.m. That hour exists.
That's if the baby wakes up.
So I think that's just key, is just getting out there and going to the different places.
Right.
Shifting gears a little bit back to kind of the struggles as a woman, right? Yeah. Like, you obviously have been in a lot of... I don't even
know if he's allowed to ask anything.
I think because he knows me so well.
But I just, like... balancing a family, right? Because you mentioned 1 foot over here, 1 foot over there, right? And there's that natural motherly instinct, right? And it's only mothers will understand. Like, I only understand because I've had these conversations. You're both mothers. I've had these conversations. Like, I don't understand it, but I understand it from a conceptual standpoint. Right. But it's like this, like, internal thing. Like, I got to take care of my family. Right. It's a very natural, like, hormonal thing. Yeah. And then I want to build an empire, right? So how did you balance that? And what is your advice to other women who have young children or have a family who feel guilty, who like they have that natural instinct over here, but then they also have that rare personality of like, I need to build something. Like I'm a builder and I need to create and I need to get out there. And like, it's this, seems like this double-sided coin that they're constantly flipping back and forward between.
Yeah, you can do both.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest myths, probably.
Lies women tell ourselves.
Right. Is that there's balance. I personally don't believe in balance in the traditional sense, right? Women can have it all. We deserve to have it all. We deserve to call our own shots on our own terms, make a difference in the world, not have to ask permission and not have to get permission.
That's one of the main premises in the book I'm almost done writing, is that you can have it all. You can be a great mom and CEO and run a multi-million-dollar company. It's possible.
Absolutely. And women like us and all the other women are doing it every single day.
But they're not talking about it. And that's the problem I have when I go to masterminds and stuff. Usually I'm looking for more friends like you. I'm like, who's the Kellys in the room that are either where I'm at, that can relate to me and talk to me and encourage me and stuff like that? And where are the women that are above, so place that I want to get to? Right. I want those relationships as well. So like you said, the people that get you this level in your business aren't necessarily the people that will get you to the next level. Usually it's a different set of people.
100%.
Sometimes it's some of the same people. Like AJ just won't quit. I don't get it.
Me?
No, I bet AJ did work with me 3 times.
I keep leaving. You keep
I'm like,
roping
please
me
come
back in.
Please come back, AJ.
Come back. We love you.
We love you.
No, I mean, I agree with you 1,000%. And sometimes those rooms, especially the bro marketing rooms, right?
Fun.
Hey, fun, useful.
Mm-hmm.
But look, who we are and what we do are sometimes different. Like what we do, it can be technical, it can be tactical, but who we are innately, who we are, how we operate, powerhouse women. I truly believe that if a woman wants to build an empire is an interesting word. I use it all the time. Number one, it polarizes women that aren't interested in building like super brand new. We love you. We have amazing free content. But to build a fearless 7, 8, 9, 10 figure empire women are hardwired differently, right? And so, when you really start to think about, can I build an empire? Can I build a 6-figure empire, 7-figure, 8, whatever it is? Who cares about the number? It is also who we become in that process. And that is amazing. I can't wait for your book.
I mean, it's in manuscript form right now, but I don't even know if it's going to be amazing or not. So I'm not releasing it if it's not, but I've got really good stuff like the have it all. It's the working title is The Alpha Female Leadership: How to Grow Your Business and Your Family, or How to Nurture Your Business and Your Family. I think that was most of what I go through, is trying to find women like you and then having that, balance. If there's no balance, you have to do what you have to do. Some days it's going to be what your kids need, what your husband needs, whatever. Or some days it's going to be working 12 hours, 14 hours a day, because that's what you have to do in that moment.
Yeah.
But there's questions for both of you.
And by the way, your book is going to be amazing. And I'm looking forward to my autographed copy. Thank you very much.
It will be interesting. I'm not uninteresting, a little chaotic, but that's okay. But it'll have hopefully what I've learned that didn't work and what did in there. Maybe.
So good.
So on that question for both of you, like you mentioned it earlier, like asking people stuff, right?
Right.
That is something people have big problems with. And knowing both of you, one of the biggest reasons you have success is because you aren't afraid to ask. You're not afraid to ask for what you need. You're not afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Right.
You're not afraid to ask people to step up when they need to step up.
Right.
So how do you ask people stuff? Because a lot of people, that's their biggest thing, is like rejection, right? If I say I need this and then you shut me down, or so how do you ask and ask in a way that is able to support you?
Okay, this is great. So I actually made an ask today, right? I asked Sarah. I wasn't planning on it, but I asked Sarah, I would be honored. I would love to have you on the Powerhouse CEO podcast show, right? That's an ask. But in a microsecond, just because this is a learned skill, it came from intentional thought, intentional result. The result is because I love Sarah. I think she's a powerhouse. I would love for her to share all of her mission, her knowledge, and her amazingness to our communities and to all of our people. And so it doesn't come from a, what can I get? And I think that is the difference in an ask. It's like, oh my God, how can I help you? How can I share you? I have just found the most amazing thing. It can be, a little diamond. It could be a puppy. It could be a diamond.
Definitely diamond.
And, but like whatever it is. So it's like, I'm sitting here. I have this amazing human being, and how can I share her with the world? And if it comes from that place, asking is simple. But it has to be, why are you asking? And I always ask from the place of love, like how it doesn't, if it comes from the right place, it will automatically boomerang back if it's supposed to, right? But just do it without expectation. Yeah. And even in the boardroom, what do you guys talk about? Well, why would I want to know that? Because I want the competitive edge, because I want to close more clients, because what we sell is epic. And when we close more clients and those thousands of people are trained to help all of their databases or, whatever, it's a good thing. Yeah.
Well, okay. So I like what you said, you believe in what you're asking is the benefit to the other person.
Yeah.
It's just like when you're selling your product, the value of your product, you don't price it cheaply. You don't accept everybody. There's free stuff out there. Go ahead. But the person that you're saying, I love that you did a decision call, because I think this is the right attitude. You're like, hey, we're going to talk about why we understand that this is best for you already. So you're just going to need to come to that conclusion or it won't work out. So you walk them through their own, talking themselves into why they need that thing. But it's because you believed in it in the first place. So if you are very confident in what you're saying, whether it's in the boardroom about your numbers or like we've been in banking sessions, you and I, with lots of lawyers and banks, and my husband, Sarah, and all her men. It's me and like 9 dudes in a boardroom. And I'm like, all right, cool. And a lot of the questions I have to answer. But if it's, based on our company and stuff and our numbers, if I'm not confident, like they said, well, we want to know like your chargeback rate. And I was like, it's 3.6%. Or no, it's 0.036%. And they're like, no.
Which is like, unheard of in the industry.
I know. I was like, no, it is. They're like, well, no, you'd have to have like a percentage of refunds per your sales. I was like, no, I know. The chargebacks are 0.036%. And they were like, oh, okay. And they had to go. But if you don't understand what you're saying, if you're making up numbers off your head, it's definitely 4.2. It's not that. You can't seem confident. But if you know you're right, you're going to say it and you're going to stand up for yourself. Yeah. Also, you have to believe in it. So I think that's a lot of the way the mom struggles, because they believe in it, but not enough that what they're saying would give value to the person they're saying it to. Or why wouldn't you say it? You're doing them a disservice by not.
And I think women do that also. We, I mean, I've been there myself. We feel like we have to do this, grandioso thing. And it doesn't need to be like that. So, instead of putting myself out there like this, if you could just simplify and micro, and what are you epic at and really awesome at? And then just follow that as we grow. Cool men too. We will, it's human nature. We become more confident, right? We believe in ourselves. I mean, I have such a deep belief in people, like air, like it's everywhere. Just because you can't see it, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. There's so much of it and it's endless. My belief in people is like that. They just don't see it in themselves yet. It doesn't mean they won't, but what's the mechanism to get them there?
Yeah, I love that. And I think that what you said is real important too, around the fact that at the end of the day, like people often can't see, like, well, I've used this for what with lifting, like when people say, well, how did you lift so much weight? It's like, well, I surrounded myself with people who lifted more.
Right.
Like my reality shifted, right? Yep. So, you mentioned around getting around people who like to support you, who are ahead, whatever. The big thing to that is that when you shift your reality. Yeah. So like when you come into something and you have this like idea or whatever, and someone else who has built bigger things goes, oh yeah, like, wow, this just really is unique. Yeah. You have an amazing story, an amazing personality. Like, you can see something they can't see because your experiences allow you to do that. And so that person can leverage your vision because like, what is possible, right? Exactly. Like, and that's the thing, like, and until like you are in a place that no one else has been, Like that's the only place in the world that's hard.
Right.
Like when you're like number one richest man in the world, who do you turn to? You don't. There's nobody ahead of you. So like you are on your own to figure it out. Now, of course, they have support teams around them advising, but at the end of the day,
for those.
but at the end of the day, the truth is that nobody else has any experience to share with that person, right?
Right.
You got a long way to go until you're the richest person in the world, right? So knowing that, it's
I do. I have a long way to go.
The point I'm making with that is that at the end of the day, no matter where you are, you should have confidence that you can get where you want to go, even if you have no clue how to do that, because you can tap into networks and individuals who have been there, who can show you that. So for those people that struggle seeing that, right?
Right.
Like, when do they start to trust the process? Because even when they commit, right?
Yeah.
And this is, everybody thinks when they give the money, they trust the process. Well,
Right.
how many people would sign up for a gym and then never go, right? The transaction is not the piece that gets the buy-in. So
Right.
when is that?
So this is so cool that you asked this question, because there is someone very dear to me who you know. Her name is Jenny. And she came to me. I said, hey, she went to some event. And I said, how was it? And of course, you know, we've worked together and whatnot. And she said, I didn't realize how far I'd come until I was in a room where I used to be.
That's so cool.
And that made me feel great. And I was super proud of her, and she recognized it. So number one is through the doing, right? Through the taking action. So when you've arrived at a place and then you wind up going somewhere and realize that you're in a room where you used to be, I always equate it to like riding a bike, right? So you can watch how to ride a bike. You can read how to ride a bike. You can watch a YouTube video. You can sit on a bicycle. But until you actually put your feet on those pedals and you go, you fall down and you get back up, only then are you going to pop a wheelie off of a curb or whatever you're going to do as a kid or an adult. And the same thing is in life, right? So you start to get these results, you start to have these experiences, and constantly, just like the space shuttle coming in, right? Go, no, go, go, no, go, go, no, go, thousands of times a day in our brain. And it is through those experiences. And so I think if people could just look at life like an Easter egg hunt, you know, or just enjoy their business and enjoy the journey and just take the ride. And so what? Closing $1 billion sounds really sexy, but let me tell you, very few people ask me, but what about the 4 billion no's? What about the $4 billion in no's? Well, that's what got me here. But you have to go through, you know, look, when you're walking through hell, just keep on moving. It's not like you're going to stand walking over those fire coals and say, this doesn't feel good. No, keep on moving. And it's through those experiences that I think people start to have an awareness of what they're capable of and where they have been, and that they truly have the potential to shatter their own glass ceiling, which really doesn't exist, and to be able to break through those barriers and create a life they love.
So I had to be coached through a lot of that stuff, and that's what you do.
Yes.
Did you have anyone coaching you back then?
Back, you mean through my whole life?
Yeah, someone that gave you the confidence to be like, I see something in you. You be confident and go forth.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, I'm just a human being, right? I'm just a
That's
girl.
not true at all. I've known you a long time, Kelly. You're pretty amazing.
Yeah, you know, look, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. That's what I always say. But the answer to that is yes. You know, in the early years, yes, my mom was my greatest cheerleader. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I'm very blessed with that. You know, through corporate, I had, you know, execs and bosses who were very supportive, who would coach and guide me, even when I was no longer in that world and maybe 15 years would pass. You know, we would still keep in touch, and I would ask different questions. You know, yes, of course, mentors, paid mentors, but even just around people, you know, both of you, you know, you're my people. Right? I love you guys. I love being here, and I know you'll give it to me straight. And if I had a question or if I was unsure of something, I would have absolutely no hesitation to say, hey, Sarah, what do you think about this? Let me float this past you, or here's how I'm feeling, or what about this?
I think your hair does look great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's what you asked me earlier. Like, is it? And I was like,
Is it
no,
too
it's
curly?
awesome. And I would tell you because I would be doing you a disservice if I don't tell you.
That's right. That's right.
That's why you got to ask a woman that question.
That's right.
A man's answer is always, it looks
But
wonderful.
it happens at every level. It happens at every level, right? It's not like, I mean, we're people. And so, yes, I've had the great blessing, but look, I've had people that I thought would be a great mentor or a great, person. And it turns out they're not. And there's no hard feelings on that. You can crash and burn, or you can crash and learn. And there are great advantages to crashing and learning because it's what's going to get you to the top, whatever your top is.
Beautifully said. Any other questions?
I don't love crashing and learning, but you're right. It does push you forward because now you've been through it. And then you're not afraid of it anymore either. So you do make mistakes. I think you can get past that. I do have a question. So then if you've got some woman at home that's got a bad mindset, that's not really confident, knows she's something to offer, but not sure what it is. We've gone through some of that. How do you find it? And then where would they go? Would you recommend, depending on the level that, like, so the first coaching program that we ever bought was $300 a month. We couldn't afford it, but we did it anyway.
Right.
So sometimes it's the right thing to do in your life is you make the purchase towards your own growth to get to the next step. But if you can't, or you're not there yet, where would some good, you said a lot of free stuff out there that would help until you're ready for the next level of learning?
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to, it's a great question, right? So it goes back to who is the tribe, and it doesn't have to be just one. It's like, oh, I want to learn from Sarah. I want to know how to create. I want to know how she's built this amazing, fearless empire. And I also want to learn from this person and that person, right? I mean, no one's going to eat, the same cracker every single day of their life. So we have to have that variety, and there's different experiences that you can have. But you mentioned if someone has, did you say a situation in a house where it's negative, and then where do they go to get?
Yeah, if they can't join a mastermind at this time because it's expensive, or they've got babies at home, or it's expensive to travel.
Sure.
Where would they go for some of your other stuff? You've got your.
For ours.
Yeah. Well,
or
so
anybody.
I'm going to send them to you. You're on today's show, and we're featuring you and the amazing things that you do, and especially because you do mentor and coach women. That is your whole thing, and I love that. And so that's what we're talking about. If somebody's going to go and say, where should I start if I'm not quite ready to go to the mastermind or private coaching level?
I mean, I think the beauty of the world today is that anybody can be a creator. Anybody.
Absolutely.
And for free. I mean, literally, you can, get Zoom for free, and you can get a YouTube channel for free. And so anyone can create. And so, find the free content that will give you those small wins, and at the right time, sure. Yeah. Invest in something, right? When it makes sense. But also, look, we go to battle with ourselves every single day, the internal debate to play big and small. We've talked about that. And sometimes you have to take that leap of faith in yourself, even when you don't know how you're going to get there. Even if it gives you that, I don't know, kind of feeling, go forward, as long as it's not going to obviously create financial problems and strain and things like that. So yeah, I think there are times where you just have to play full out, or accept that you're playing small and move forward.
Yeah. So where can people go to learn more about you and the programs that you have?
So besides Google, I would say go to powerhouseceo.com, powerhouseceo.com, kellyfidel.com. They all go to the same place. We have amazing and deep content and resources that are available for free, and we are always constantly putting out new content. We have programs that are, available regardless of where someone is in their journey. So,
well, that's why I'm glad you asked. But we're trying to get there is someone that is at home is looking for a place to go. They should go to one of your spots where you have your free blogs, where you have the stuff so they can start. Because someone that wants to go learn about it is going to get over that next hump really quickly. Someone that's looking for a mentor or somewhere to go where they can hear positive feedback about how they can do it and everybody can create something. would be I would be doing them a disservice if I didn't push them to your list.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, we have great content. I mean, our blog is spectacular. Our podcast is there. I do my own personal podcasting and share my knowledge.
That's right, you do.
I love to Idea Tithe, give that knowledge. But also there's some great interviews, just executives from MGM and Zappos and Powerhouse Women, Sarah, and, all of these other women. So yeah, I mean, there's really something for everyone. And I'm not going to say we guarantee results, but man, if you only listen to the intro, you're probably not going to get any results. But if you go a little bit further, then you're probably going to definitely be able to leverage that content for your benefit.
Yeah, for sure. Cool women and cool men. Go check it out.
That's right.
Thanks so much for being here today. It's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kelly.
All right.
I just have to tell you about Kartra, the marketing platform that has seriously transformed my business. You know how running a business can be insanely time consuming, right? Well, Kartra has been a game changer for me. It's honestly like having an entire marketing team in my pocket. And what I love most is that it automates all the tedious daily tasks for me, from marketing to sales to even customer experience. I can't believe how much time and energy I've saved since I started using it. And get this. With Kartra, I can create websites, funnels, courses, membership sites, email campaigns, calendars, surveys, you name it. It's made managing my business so much simpler and more affordable. Honestly, I can't recommend Kartra enough. If you're curious, head to paidcreatepodcast.com/Kartra to start your trial. Trust me, you won't regret it.